Welcome to the Real Freedom Podcast, where we inspire you to pursue your passion to gain time and financial freedom through opportunities in real estate. I'm your host, Mike Swenson. Let's get some real freedom together. All right, welcome everybody to another episode of Real Freedom Stories. And today I've got Zackary Boothe, and Zach hails from Utah. So we're so excited to have Zach here. So Zach's background actually was he was a window cleaner, and you can even find window cleaning tutorials of his on YouTube that have millions of views. But taking a leap of faith, he walked away from window cleaning and got into real estate. And with a handful of years now, you've made millions of dollars in real estate and real estate investing. So now you're spending your time helping others, coaching, making money in real estate. You have Driving for Dollars Mastery. And also we have a fun challenge that you did this spring that we're going to talk about too. So welcome to the show, Zach. We're so excited to have you. Why don't you just share a little bit more about you?
Yeah. I'm a family guy and a major outdoorsman as well. So, having a job never fit my lifestyle. So when I was 17, I actually started that window cleaning business. And that was the last time I had really a full-time job. I did take a job as an acquisition manager about 4 years ago when I first really went full-time into real estate investing. So I got a job negotiating investment deals. And I got fired after like 3 months. So that's my only job that I had since I was 17. And, but I wanted to be able to spend time with my family. I wanted to be able to, spend a lot of time in the mountains and have lots of adventures. And, real estate's definitely been a path that I saw that was 100% the potential. I got to do the challenge like you talked about, and I was gone for 2 months. It was a 40-day challenge. And then my family got COVID, and then I got stuck in Brazil for a month because my family was down there stuck. And, there's just so much freedom that comes from real estate if you do it right. Right. So that's a little bit about me. That's why real estate was so important. And, window cleaning just didn't cut it. Right. It wasn't the amount of revenue, and it didn't necessarily like the thing that I love about real estate is, yes, you can make a lot of money when you're sourcing discounted properties, right? You can pass those on, you can wholesale them, you can flip them, but you can also cherry pick the best deals and have amazing rentals. You can double your equity, as soon as you purchase, triple, quadruple, you have an infinity return, right? Using other people's money, those kinds of things. So you're sourcing these amazing deals to grow your net worth and also passive cash flow. And it's like, okay, well, I'm washing a gazillion windows. I had 13 employees and 3 trucks, and, we did okay. I ended up on the History Channel because of it. Like, crazy things happened because of window cleaning. And it was a great experience, but, I was still paycheck to paycheck. It wasn't building my net worth. It was tough. My right rotator cuff still has issues from all the windows I washed. But yeah, man, that's a little bit about me and why I got into real estate.
Yeah. And I love, you already shared some of the why behind what you're doing, because even people in real estate, you can have a job in real estate and it can be just that, where you kind of punch in, punch out. Now it's a little non-traditional to have it that way, but yeah, you can be in the real estate industry and just have a job. But like the things that you talked about, wanting to be able to travel, wanting to be able to kind of do what you want, when you want, and dictate those things, it's going to be an entrepreneurial journey. And so with that comes some sacrifices. But yeah, even, people on the surface would see your window cleaning company and see like, oh, wow, you're really successful. You must be making a lot of money. And then you shared, you're still paycheck to paycheck. So you can have a business. It's the difference between kind of being self-employed as a business owner and running a business that's going to build and grow, hopefully without you, without only your work, to be able to build and grow the business. So, so what kind of going back here before we get into the future, what prompted you to start the window cleaning business?
Yeah. So I was raised by like a really stern father. I love him to death, and I'm so grateful for that. great parents. And, my dad was raised rough. His dad was an alcoholic and gambler. And, he was the oldest. He was asking for food from his neighbors to feed his younger siblings. And then his stepdad, and his, like when he was 11, came into the picture, and really stern Korean War vet. He was a tender teddy bear in his older age. I worked with him when I was a young kid mowing lawns, but, my dad had a rough life. And so he raised me, to be self-sufficient, to raise me to be responsible, to take care of myself. So I started working for, my dad would go to a full-time job. He's now 60. And he's been in the same job since he was 19 years old. Right. He's a couple of years away from retirement. So very dedicated, very focused, wakes up at 5 o'clock every morning for however many years that is, 40 something years, right? Crazy to me. So disciplined, so focused. But he had to, right. And, so when we were kids, to help make ends meet, because my dad wasn't educated, didn't make a lot of money. My mom was going through school to become a nurse, and to help the family make ends meet, we mowed lawns. So I started working for the family lawn mowing business when I was 11. And, I was selling door-to-door aerations at that time. So aerations, like during the spring, you basically put air plugs into the ground.
Yep.
And I was going door to door for that. So I learned to do door-to-door sales for the business, and I was mowing lawns, and it taught me to work. My father gave me my work ethic. And, so by the time I was 17 and wanted to start a business, dude, I had made handcrafted cheese. I had framed houses. I'd done finished carpentry. I'd mowed for my family in the summers. And I went to Nova Scotia, Canada right before, and worked for a full summer, 80-hour work weeks to buy my truck cash, because he wouldn't even co-sign a loan, my dad, but at 16, he said, "You're a man, you take care of yourself now. Anything you want, you pay for. You don't have to buy food or rent, but you take care of everything else." And so, I had all these other jobs and side jobs. I got sick of hourly wages. I got sick of, like, since I was a kid, I was getting paid, 30, 40% less than the adults, but I honestly was doing just as much. I thought, at least, I knew how to work. And so I was like, this sucks. Like, I got to do something different, because I want to play basketball, right? I want to play high school basketball. I got to pay for all that. And then I need to have the time. I need to make more money with less time, because I want to spend time playing basketball. And that's where the window cleaning started. And I remember I called my uncle, who's like a serial entrepreneur. I'm like, "Hey, have you ever washed windows? Can you make money doing that?" I was like, "Or what business?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, I've done that in the past." And so I went, and I had just gotten back from Nova Scotia, Canada. So I took all of that money that I had made and bought my first truck cash. I was 17, and bought my first cell phone. This is before smartphones. This is a year before the iPhone came out. So I bought this little flip phone. I had to use Cricket because I didn't have any credit. My dad wouldn't co-sign for a cell phone. I was like down to almost no money. And I remember I had to go walk straight from my parents' house. I actually went and picked up an empty paint bucket, and cleaned it out from the construction down the street, and then went to Home Depot and bought my first squeegee and my first little scrubber applicator, they call them, right? So I had no idea how to wash windows. I had no idea how to price it. So I pulled open the yellow books. This is before a lot of the technologies and smartphones and that kind of stuff. So I pulled open an old yellow book or the yellow pages, and I looked up window cleaners, and I called a window, and I was like, "Hey, my dad needs a bid for window cleaning. How much do you charge for a piece of glass?" That's how I figured out how much to charge. And then I walked from my parents' house to a wealthy area, that the closest wealthy area, because I was out of money and I didn't have any gas. Yep. And so I remember I had like $20 in my pocket. I was out of money, and I needed to get money. And then I just started learning how to sell door-to-door window cleaning. I remember my first job for $30, my first day where I made $100, the first day that I made $1,000, $2,000 in a day. And, when I was 17, almost 18, I had like 10 grand in savings. I was working my butt off and doing door-to-door sales in the evening and washing. And so, it out of kind of a need to sustain a lifestyle, my dad gave me that opportunity at a young age. Most kids that age, "Dad, I need $100, $100 bill. Here you go, son." And you go play. Right. And that wasn't the luxury he gave me. He could have. My parents are pretty well off, and my dad's been dedicated. My mom's now, a registered nurse and loves her career, and they have a rental, and they're doing well, right? But they gave me an opportunity to learn, and I'll be forever grateful for my parents, because it forced me to grow up at a very young age. And so, when most kids were just playing, my 18th birthday, on my birthday, I actually went and got my first business license. My dad wouldn't, co-sign a business license or anything. You have to be 18 to do it on your own. He wouldn't do that because of liabilities, but I needed insurance and workman's comp and some of those things to be able to get the larger contracts, the banks, the route work basically. And so, that was kind of how I got into window cleaning. And I actually did that for a full decade. I took a stop for 2 years to serve a Christian mission as well. So I actually went to Sao Paulo, Brazil, spoke Portuguese, and served down there for a couple of years during that 10-year stint. But by the time those 10 years were up, my company had grown, and I felt like the bigger I got, the less, I don't feel like, I know the bigger I got, the less money I actually made and the more headaches I had. I was still out on job sites because people were calling in sick, tons of turnover. Quality control was a nightmare. It was just, and I was learning how to manage people and being a leader. I mean, there were so many great lessons that I had to really struggle through with that first business, but it was, so I'm so grateful, right? I'm so grateful for that foundation to lead me into the career I'm in now.
Yeah. Yeah. And as a contrast, I remember in high school, I played, well, I should say I was on the basketball team. I was one of the bench warmers at the end, but I remember working. So my first job was I worked for a pizza chain. And so I was making $5.35 an hour. And at that time, I remember, when I got my first raise, it was like 10 cents or 15 cents an hour. And I was excited because it was like a higher end. Like, I think you could get a 5-cent raise, but it was like 10 or 15. And then I ran the math on how much more I would make. And I was like, oh, really? That's it. Like, and so, it just goes to show, I mean, so many valuable lessons that you've learned as far as, managing people, responsibility, ownership, that kind of stuff, in those early years for you to lead into real estate. So talk about kind of that transition to real estate and leading up to where you're at today.
Yeah. So after I got home from Sao Paulo, Brazil, I was 21 and I had no credit, like none, because I had bought everything in cash. And so I had read Rich Dad, Poor Dad when I was 14. And so I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to be responsible for my own money. And then I also wanted to get into real estate. I knew that I needed to do that. So I thought, well, I'll just run my window cleaning business and I'll just buy real estate, right? You can do that. So I did. When I was 21, I bought I got married pretty quick. I was almost 22 when I got married. So not too long after I got home, and I actually married a Brazilian girl, it's Kiting, or Karen, right? I love her to death. She's so fun. We're actually having our 10-year anniversary next week, which is
Congrats.
So awesome. Yeah. Thank you. We have 2 beautiful children, but anyways, I wanted to get in real estate. So I thought I came up with the idea of, we call it house hacking, right? Living in one side and renting the other. I thought I came up with the idea. Of course I didn't. So I found a duplex that was really, really bad. And that was in 2012. And that was when banks were unloading foreclosures. So I got a really good deal.
Yep.
I rented the one side. I had to do a bunch of work, but I had construction experience. I could go in. I mean, I had a standing water in the basement, had termite damage, had all sorts of crap, but I did the whole thing myself, just paid for materials, like 20 grand of materials. I got the house for like $55,000, which is crazy. The duplex. I ended up selling it like 5 years later for like $240. It's crazy. But anyway, so I'm renting the one side for like $700, and my mortgage is like $400, including taxes and insurance, So I'm like, this is amazing. I just need to buy as many of these as I can, because I can just keep buying and buying and buying, and I'll be rich, right? Like, this is easy. And then I went to the banks. They're like, well, your debt to income, and you need to put 25% down. And I was like, oh, I don't have either of those. Right. Like now I was like, okay, well, I guess I can move into another one. And we did. But it became a problem when my wife became pregnant. It wasn't necessarily a planned pregnancy. We were excited. Our little boy Hudson's now 7. But we didn't know how to get into more properties. So then I started asking all my wealthy window clients, that had these giant mansions, can I borrow your money to flip houses? And so I think I pitched to like 20 people and they all said no. I finally got someone to say yes. It was Steve Young, not the football player, but a good guy. Love him. Son Dave, good people. But they lent me money for the first flip. They got their interest and everything back, but I lost $5,000 on the flip. And I had bought it off the MLS. I was like, all right, that sucked. That didn't work. I hate flipping too, by the way. And so I just kept hitting like all these roadblocks and trying to figure things out myself. And I ended up meeting my mentor. So I had a friend invite me to a real estate investors association meeting. And I went and I met a guy in my market that's wholesaling. So his business partner's Tom Kroll in Florida. They don't coach anymore, but they got me into what's called real estate wholesaling, or they taught me about it, right? I heard about it for the first time.
Yep.
And, you basically, for the listeners that may not know what that is, it's you go out, you do marketing, you find off market, super discounted properties, and you pass that opportunity onto a flipper, buy and hold investor for a fee. I'm like, aha, this is the key. Like, this is how I'm going to get into this full time and walk away from window cleaning, because I can make cash, right, to pay for my living expenses and cover my expenses for marketing and that kind of stuff. And then I can start cherry picking. I can get seller finance. I can get whatever I need to grow my portfolio and have financial freedom. I'm like, this is it. So I walked away from window cleaning. I had a business partner who had joined my company like 3 years before I walked away. And I went to him on my birthday, March 2nd, 2007. No, what was it? 2017. Was it 17? Yeah, it was 2017. And I said, I quit. I said, if there's profits, great. If not, I don't care. I'd love it if you'd cash me out. I'm done. I'm walking away from this thing, which is kind of crazy. You grind for 10 years and I was just done. He did cash me out. I did make some money on that business. It's still in business today. I still see the trucks cruising around. Pretty cool. But anyways, I started it then. I hired a mentor and they gave me the steps. And by April 2017, I did my very first traditional wholesale deal where I sold a purchase contract for $10,000. And I was hooked, man. I was like, this is going to be exactly what I'm going to do the rest of my life. I did about 115,000 by the end of that year. The next year we did just shy of $500,000. The next year we did 1.2 million. Last year I cut back majorly. We did about 700,000. And then this year we're on track to do anywhere between 1.5 and actually like 2 million, depending on if these two flips we have going will cash out. So, and the cool thing is now with this amount of revenue, all of it's been done by my team. I really only spend about 2-3 hours a week on my wholesaling and investing business. And I spend all of my time helping and serving other people and doing podcasts like this. Like, this is what I want to do with my time. And also I'm a lot of months like September, I'm only working 2 days a week. So in the coaching business, I don't work very much right now. The winters I work more, just because there's not as many adventures to be had in the mountains in the winters. And I don't like the winter as much. So yeah, man, that's kind of where I'm at and why I got into real estate and the process to get into it.
Yeah. So why don't you, before we get into kind of this challenge that you talked about, talk a little bit about the nuts and bolts of your team. So how does this work for somebody that's like, okay, how do you go from, 10 grand on your first deal to now, netting 1.5 or $2 million a few years later? How does that work? So fill in some of those gaps for folks about, doing it yourself and then raising up others and kind of leading them and training them to kind of do that process as well. And how do you get to some of those bigger deals?
Yeah. Just to clarify too, I don't want to, fluff the numbers. So 1.5 to 2 million, that's going to be our gross revenue, not our net.
Gross. Yes.
Yep. So I'll net about a 30% profit margin off after profit share and all those things with my team members and everything, marketing costs, all that. So great profit margin by not doing anything and just letting the company run.
Yep.
So what does my team look like now? I'm now in 2 markets because I went down to Tampa in January and did the 40-day challenge. Since I built a cash buyers list and did everything there, I was like, well, I might as well keep things running. So now I'm in 2 markets. I'm in Utah, I'm in Florida. So here in Utah, in my office here for just my wholesaling business, I have my lead acquisition manager who trains our cold callers He does all the appointments here for acquisitions and selling the deals, the disposition. We have 3 cold callers, part-time cold callers that are here in-house. I have Miguel, who does all of my marketing and systems management. He's amazing. I actually met him when I was in Brazil. He was actually one of my missionary companions when I was down there. So pretty awesome to have him here. I love him to death. And then that's it for here in Utah. So it's not a huge team. The majority of our revenues here, of course. And then in Tampa, I have an acquisition manager who does all acquisitions and dispositions. And we need to hire a driver to do our driving for dollars, basically create our marketing list down there. So we're short an employee down there right now, but yeah, it's only 2 people down there. So it's not a ginormous team. I mean, to be able to do $2 million in window cleaning, I would have needed, I mean, I can't even imagine. It sounds horrible. I mean, my biggest year was like 450,000 in gross revenue with like a 9% profit margin. It was horrible. And I had like me and 14 other employees that year, but it was horrible. I mean, it was just a constant nightmare. I was working like 70 hours a week. It was stupid.
Yeah.
I'd have probably made more just being a sales rep for like a dealership, honestly.
So, yeah. So, and just to kind of tease the wholesale process here. So what are your folks doing? Who are they calling, and kind of what's that messaging?
Yeah. So I keep it super simple. In the beginning, that first year we did 100,000, then I had that huge jump, right? To just shy of $500,000. That big jump was because I found a marketing system that works. So everyone's like, oh, my market's competitive. Well, I'm in the 2 most competitive markets if you look at the cost per lead for PPC. Right. So I hired one of the best ad agencies that exist for real estate wholesalers. Their minimum ad spends like $7,000 to open a market. Right. So it's a big firm. We just started that, but they're like, Zach, you have picked the 2 most expensive cost per lead markets in the country, because they're in pretty much every market. So I thought that was funny. So in Utah, I had multiple companies doing over $1 million a year. There was a lot of competition. And so I was buying lists and pulling lists. So I was buying lists like the code violation. So anyone doesn't cut their lawn or whatever, the city writes a code violation. A lot of that's public record. So I was doing code violations, evictions, probates. And I was sending postcards and cold calling those lists and asking if people wanted to sell. And if they did, I qualified, do you want to, retail? Do you want retail? Because I'm not your guy if that's the case. Or do you want to sell it to an investor for speed and convenience, even though you're getting it, at less, but there's a convenience factor.
Right.
And that's what I was doing in the beginning. But man, deals were really tough to come by, and there's always competition on all those deals. And so out of necessity, I needed more deals. I'm like, how can I find deals? I thought I came up with the idea of driving for dollars but I didn't. It's been around forever, everybody. But I really feel like I've perfected the process out of necessity. But basically what I started doing is I was like, man, I've noticed that all the deals I've done, the houses, like you're driving down the street looking for the house number and you're like, that's got to be the house, right? Because it looks like crap compared to the rest of them.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, yep, that's the house. And so I was like, man, if I just drove around and identified the ugly houses, and then that's my marketing list, I bet I would make way more money, bigger profit margins, more deals, less competition, right? Like everything. So I was like, all right, let's do it. So I added like 70 properties and did my first deal. I was like, okay, like I'm hooked. But back then it was before all the technology. So I'm having to like write down the addresses, pull up the address and county records, get the mailing address, the owner, all of that stuff. It took forever to build a list of any size. Right. And I'm recruiting people to help me, and we did it. But there's been technology since then. So about 2000, so I spoke at an event in October 2018. I'm doing really well. I spoke at my coach's event and had the owners of Deal Machine, which is a tech company that now you can drive through a neighborhood and identify a house, and you basically have a maps image, and you can touch the house There's a few apps now. Deal Machine's not the only one, but you can touch the house on your phone. It'll actually upload all of the owner's information into an Excel spreadsheet, ready to be marketed to. Like it's amazing, right? So now we're adding in Utah to be able to do this. We're adding about 2,000 properties every single week to our marketing list, and we're texting, cold calling, and postcarding that list. So on the 40-day challenge, I document day by day how to make over 40 grand in 40 days, just starting with $1,000, doing the same process. And it was just me. I didn't get my team. I didn't get any of that crap. Right. And I show people exactly what I was doing and how I was doing it, recording the conversations, recording the appointments, recording, and so it's all free. You guys can see it play out. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that challenge then. So in January, you essentially went down to Tampa, your new market that you're now in. You had $1,000 and you said that you were going to go turn that $1,000 into 40 grand in 40 days. Right.
Yeah.
So go ahead and share kind of that whole process and how that worked.
Yeah. So the reason I did it, a lot of people are like, well, why are you doing that? Are you showing off? Like, why would you even document? Why would you go through that, that suffering and not be with your family? I wasn't with my family for 30 days, and my family is the most important thing to me in the world. And the reason I did it is I had read a self-help journal. So I kind of got to go into the backstory why I became a coach, because I didn't plan to become a coach. It kind of happened accidentally. So back in 2018, towards the end of 2018, we just done shy of a $500,000, right? So in 2019, I was like, I want to do $1 million. How do I do $1 million? I'm kind of pinching myself still that I did a $500,000, right? I've made more money than I ever made in my life net. And I'm like, okay, well, like, how do I grow this? How do I scale this? What do I do? And I had a friend invite me to do a self-help journal called Living Your Best Year Ever. And the first 100 pages is, going through and creating 3 big goals for the year. The rest of it's a journal, daily journal, right? And in those 100 pages, I created 3 big goals, and it talked about the importance of giving away whatever I was trying to receive. If I wanted more love, I got to give love. If I want money, I got to give money. So I was like, all right, well, if I want to make $1 million, according to this journal, I got to give away $1 million. I'm like, well, that doesn't make any sense. I want $1 million. I don't want to give it away. And so but I'm trying to take this thing serious, and it went in alignment with my core values and my ethics. And I'm like, all right, well, and I'm talking to my wife. I was like, how do we do this? And we had the idea, well, you have this marketing system you've put in place over the last 12 months that's put $500,000, in your business and almost $250,000 in my pocket. Right. And I'm like, all right, like I could teach 10 people this system and go, here you go. This is the outline, do it, implement it. So I made sure that those 10 people paid me, some money to make sure that they were going to actually do the work. Cause if I was going to spend the time, I wanted to make sure they did it and then made money. Cause my goal is to put $1 million in their pockets. So I went out to some friends, people that I met that were like co-students and different programs I'd been a part of, and like, just good people everywhere from Portland to North Carolina. I mean, all over the country. And I said, okay, let's do it. And craziest thing happened. We did $1.2 million because the more I taught, the more I learned. The more my students would be like, Zach, what about this? I'm like, oh my gosh, like, look at this mistake in my business. I had no idea. Like, thank you so much for asking that question. So I had to really become the expert to help people to put $1 million in their pockets. It was mind blowing. But what's more important than the 1.2 I made was the love I found in coaching, the excitement, the fulfillment when my students were doing deals because of how I helped them, like having them call me and thank me, getting text messages, daily now for my students, thanking me and sharing their success stories. Like I found so much fulfillment. But through that process, I was like, all right, I want to be a coach. Like that's where I want to spend my time. And so it forced me to really back off. The reason we went 1.2 to 700,000 is I backed away from the company. And I put everyone else in place and automated all of it so that I could spend my time coaching, because that's where I find fulfillment. It's joy. Like, and if I can make money and change people's lives and find fulfillment, like there's no better life. And so it kind of put me down that path. But when I'm going down that path and really trying to open up and scale a coaching business, I'm finding skeptics. I'm finding people that think it's a scam. I'm finding people that don't understand, or they think it's an easy ride, and I'm getting people that come in and it's like, oh, this is too hard. And it's like, well, what'd you think it was going to be? It's going to be hard, like, what did you expect? And so I was like, I need people to be more educated. I need them to understand that it's a grind, that it's real, but it's work. Like, how can I show them? And I was thinking back to myself, before I joined the coaching program that changed my life. And I was like, well, I was a skeptic. What changed my thoughts? What changed my beliefs? And I was seeing it happen, right? It was the process. And like, once I did that first deal, I was a crazy believer. Right. And I'm like, well, if someone can get an over the shoulder look of the process, they could believe before they did their first deal, right? They could have that confidence and understanding of what it really takes and how hard it really is. And they would be able to push through because they could see the vision, they could see the process, right? So I'm up late one night, like, how do I do this? How do I do this? How do I do this? And I was like, well, I could just go out and do a deal and have a film crew follow me, like step by step. I was like, yeah, but they're going to be like, well, you're in where you live, you have your connections, you have your team. I was like, and you have all these marketing dollars and you've built a company. It's like, you got to go somewhere where you've never been. So you have no connections, have no understanding. So this is like 3 a.m. I'm like brainstorming, trying to solve this thing. And we ended up deciding to fly to Tampa because it's wintertime and I wanted sunshine. Like, that was a criteria. And my family went to see, so my wife went to see her parents, and they flew to Brazil for 30 days. I flew to Tampa, and the goal was to take that $1,000 and turn it into 40 grand in 40 days. To show people the process. Yeah, I wanted to make the 40 grand to show how much money is possible to be made. By the way, we completely blew that out of the water, which is super fun. But what was most important to me, like my mission, my goal behind the content was not necessarily to make the money. It was to inspire and show people what it takes. That it's hard, but if you have a work ethic, you can do it, right? You don't have to be the smartest guy in the room. I was a window cleaner, guys. Like, I didn't know much. I still don't know that much about real estate. I'm sure there's people that know 10 times more than me, but I understand how to find deeply discounted deals. And if you can find really, really good, deeply discounted deals, you kind of got to be a dummy to lose money, right? And so that's why I did the challenge. And it turned out amazing. I remember praying before I left. I said, God, please give me at least one seller, please, like, just to show people the process and the potential. Like, I wasn't so much worried about the 40 grand, just as long as I could make something happen. And on day 4, I met a guy named Stan Nielsen, just exactly what I had prayed for. I got super emotional. I called the wrong person, the wrong phone number, the wrong address, and he happened to have 3 properties he wanted to sell. Right. It was so perfect. But we ended up getting 7 properties under contract, and closed on 5 of them. So I won't go into the numbers. You guys are going to have to go watch it to see how much money I made. But yeah, it was pretty stinking awesome.
Yeah, that's great. So quick share then, with our final minutes here, a little bit more. So you've got Driving for Dollars Mastery. You talked about coaching. What else do you have that you can offer folks? And then where can folks find you? Yeah.
So I really don't want you guys to apply for the coaching program. That might sound off, but I want you to go check out my free content, because I want you to understand what it takes. I want you to go in and see that it's hard work and what the processes are. Before you apply for the coaching program, because I do have some requirements before I'll even let you join. So because I keep the policy that my goal is to put money in my students' pockets, not just sign people up. And so I really want you guys to go check out the free content. So I have my YouTube channel, and I also have a podcast. My podcast is some real estate professionals, but it's mainly just my students and what they did and how they did it and their process, their struggles, what they went through. So you can check out my podcast. It's called Driving for Dollars Mastery. You can find it anywhere you can find podcasts, or you can go to my website, Driving for Dollar or dfdmastery.com. So dfdmastery.com, there's a link to my podcast. There's also the link to book a call to apply for my program and talk to us about it. And then also you can search my name on YouTube, or just DFD Mastery, stands for Driving for Dollars, DFD Mastery, or Zackary Boothe on YouTube. And you can find my YouTube channel, right? If you click on the videos, and there's the 40-day challenge, you'll be able to find it just fine. So
And that's Booth with an E for those folks that want to know. So,
Yep.
Awesome. Well, Zach, thanks so much for coming on and sharing lots of great stories, and would love to have you back another time and share a little bit more about some of the details. We kind of didn't even get to some of the specifics here. So, but a lot of great high level stuff, a lot of great inspirational stuff. And I think that's the key. I mean, for people that are looking to get into, what you're doing with driving for dollars and for wholesaling that, like, yeah, it takes a lot of work, but at the same time, the reward is worth it for you to be able to go to Tampa and do something like that, to be able to travel, to be able to go into the mountains and things like that. You're going to have to sacrifice something to get something in return. And so you're a great example of somebody that's done that. So I appreciate you coming on and appreciate you sharing your story.
No, of course. Well, thank you so much. And yeah, like I said, it does take a lot of work, but there's a lot of people that work a lot more than me and a lot harder than me and a lot more hours than I do and are compensated much, much less. So if you have a work ethic, you're already working hard and you don't love what you're doing, you should consider changing what you're doing because, it really could be the best decision of your life. I totally believe that. A lot of people say, like, why do you teach this stuff? Why do you give this stuff away? You're creating your own competition. But I truly believe that if someone else is successful, it doesn't take away from my success. It's not going to equal less success for me. And people are like, what about market share? I honestly believe that that's all an effect and a cause from people that have a limiting mindset, that they believe that other people succeeding means that they are failing. Right. And that is not the truth at all. There is plenty of success. There's more money in this world than any of us want or need, right? There is so much abundance and so much. You just got to provide value and you will get value back. So, believe in yourself. You guys can do this 100%. If I can do this, you guys can do this. I was a window cleaner, guys. Like, I had no real estate experience. Honestly, I had no business getting into real estate like I did. So grateful for my mentors and for where I'm at. Like, it really, really has blessed our lives and changed our lives. We actually, last night, we went and bought a 27-foot trailer, brand new trailer, like, just beautiful, because we're planning a month-long trip to Alaska next year. And, I'm upgrading trucks and, like, I'm dumping all this stupid money. And it's like, man, like, my wife and I are just kind of on cloud nine, because it wasn't too long ago that just covering our medical bills and just covering, when our kids were born and our, it's pretty amazing what it's done for us. And I share this not to brag, but to hopefully inspire you guys to go for it if you're on the fence. So,
yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you, Zach, for coming on. Really appreciate your time and appreciate you sharing your story.
For sure. Thanks for having me.